Hello everybody and welcome to the Expat channel. Today we'll talk about the Wuhan virus. So that will be part 2. We had last Tuesday already a video about it, and I thought it would be good 1 week later to do an update on it. So what I predicted last week on Tuesday was that markets will crash quite a bit, and I wasn't that wrong. And what I did is I actually sold off 60% of all my portfolio on Tuesday. So when the markets opened again, Monday was a public holiday quite all over APAC, Chinese New Year time, and actually the rest of my portfolio, the 40%, I sold off everything on Wednesday last week. So I was already quite in the green area, so I thought I have nothing to lose when I sell everything. And if markets really go down, and the probability that it goes down is higher than it goes up, I thought, why not? I never did that before, selling my whole portfolio, but that's what I did last week. So now it's Monday, 3rd of February, and the markets opened today the first time for China, and as expected it crashed quite a bit. What I would like to do is do some review on the topic and go through some of the news that I read online. Get a bit of a holistic picture from a Singapore perspective as an expat guy living and working in Singapore. By the way, somebody asked me where do I take these videos. So I'm in the Kallang Park here in Singapore, and it looks like this. Quite a nice evening today, a little bit windy, but it's quiet, peaceful, a nice place to go for a run. And I usually take these videos somewhere in the middle of my running exercise. Okay, let's start with the facts first. Some news. So where I usually go for the numbers, that would be here, worldometers.info. And what I can see here is a live update on the numbers. So that's today, 3rd of February. What we can see is 17,488 cases right now infected. Quite a high critical conditions, 13%. We have deaths 362 and recovered, which is 523. What I find interesting is this graph here. What we see is total cases. Obviously it goes up, but it doesn't seem like it's going up exponentially, but it's quite wrong. It actually goes up exponentially. What we can see is between here is 100 to 1,000, then it jumps to 10,000. It's a bit statistically cheating on pictures to make it seem not that severe. And when we go even higher, we're at the 100,000 bands. So these are 10,000 steps going up to 100,000. And it seems the line is going down, but actually it's exponentially. If we would have an accurate graph here, not squeezing the numbers the higher up we get. We have the same with the total deaths. So we're here at soon reaching the 400, and also this line not going up exponentially, but when we look at the details here, we're having numbers for 20 to 40, 40 to 100, and jumping from 100 to 200 and then up to 400. So it makes it seem that it's not that severe, but actually the numbers are increasing very, very bad on a daily basis. What I would like to add on this site, and it's quite some interesting numbers here. When we look at the daily death statistics, we have a per day graph showing each day instances of deaths. So starting in January 23rd, we have 8 cases, then additional 16, then additional 26, then additional, we have now by 2nd February additional 58 cases. So this also shows it's actually exponentially going up every day. We have the most of them in China, obviously, and then followed by Japan, Thailand and Singapore. Singapore currently 18. So really the worst case currently is in China. And all the rest looks fine so far. But I have to say, over the last weekend, I noticed a lot of taxi drivers were having Chinese passengers because all the families and people from China doing their Chinese New Year holiday back home, they're traveling back this week and they're all coming back to Singapore, and it's around 30,000 from China. So they're allowed to come in. Obviously they have a work permit or have a PR and go for work. Now, they were told to stay at home. It's sort of a home quarantine. But let's be realistic, at home, having home office, you probably will not stay all the time inside of your house. You probably go out for a shopping mall, getting your food, getting your groceries, etc. So I do find this still quite risky. 30,000 here in Singapore coming in. Let's see how that goes. So I was very interested in reading Swiss news. So I always use this a bit as what's going on back in the Europe area, back in Switzerland. Let's look at the most read newspaper in Switzerland. That's 20minutes.ch. What's the biggest news? Biggest news. Oh, they have one suspicious case of a person of coronavirus in a Swiss machine. Second news is about 12 passengers being injured in a train accident. Then a storm coming up in Switzerland. Something about hiring police guys. Some, I don't know, IMA, biggest Super Bowl. That's a bit flashy news, but as we can see, there is not much news about coronavirus. Oh, we have a 35-year-old guy who crashed his Ferrari. Yeah, that's Swiss news. What else do we have? Oh, no, a shopping mall being bought over from a foreign company. Oh, that's not. Oh, we have here something. China says that the US is encouraging panic. Really not much about the coronavirus. Everyone seems like the world is in order. Let's go for the Singapore news. I usually go for Straits Times. What can we read here? Big news. Obviously, it's all about the coronavirus in Singapore news. Multiple lines of defense. I have to say, I'm not sure if that's enough what the Singapore government is doing there. Even my neighbor is from China, and I'm a bit worried. Just in general, looking around and knowing that some of them came over, we don't know. Even if you don't see or have signs of flu or anything, it's 2 weeks period where it can break out, and you can still pass it over to someone even when you do not have fever. So it's quite scary. We have 520 people on the quarantine in Singapore. That's quite a lot. In China, urgently need medical masks. Actually, also in Singapore, medical masks are sold out in the big stores. But I noticed in smaller stores, so in Bugis area, there's, for example, a little shop near the Vietnamese restaurant, a very small one, very tiny, and I can buy masks there. So there are still masks around. Hong Kong is more strict. They closed down the borders. There are only some points in Hong Kong where you can enter from China, but they're closing down most of it. So obviously markets, they plunged. China stocks plunged 8%. It's a lot. We have here news as well. China accuses US. I mean, accusing other countries is not the right time to do that now. I think it's about preventing to have the disease getting out of China and lower the risk of community spreading in other countries. Well, we also have to be aware of, in China, there is a sell limit. So once a stock falling more in one day, more than 10%, the stock will be taken out of the trading platform. So you're not able to trade once the stock reached a minus 10%. So that will mean that a lot of people who wanted to sell today, and it actually is 3,500 stocks which reach the 10% limit, people will sell the day after. So tomorrow, I guess, stocks will decline even further because a lot of people were not able to sell today. So that's very special. Usually I check in Bloomberg as well. Bloomberg gives quite a global approach on news. And when we open Bloomberg, first news is 3,000, more than 3,000 stocks fall by daily limit. So the daily limit is the 10%, meaning they probably will sell off the day after. And let's hope it doesn't reach the 10% again. US is not open yet. All news here also about the coronavirus. So the markets indices. Let's look at Asia. So we have Australia minus 1.34%, Shanghai, China minus 7.7%. So that's quite a severe drop of the index. What I would also like to share with you is this WhatsApp I received from a friend of mine, and that shows the population of Wuhan went abroad before the city was frozen. And we see here the number one is actually Singapore. And then we have Bangkok with around 17,000 directly from the city, Wuhan. And then the rest is South Korea, Hong Kong, Macau, Phuket, Thailand, etc. Even, we have Sydney, New York down here, Paris, 1,900 cases, that just people flying in from Wuhan before the city closed down. And the list goes on, goes through Bali, New York, Rome, Paris, we saw already. Good, I would say that's it on the summary on the news. Well, mainly from the Singapore news, what you can read here, and from Switzerland, what currently is going on there. Obviously in Switzerland, it's not a big topic at all. It is really a major topic here in Singapore. Definitely also at work. Even going to work, nobody really wears masks. Last week it was about 1 to 2%, I guessed. Today it's around 5% of people outside wearing masks. It's not a lot at all. One colleague even just came back from Bangkok, and he said in Bangkok everybody wears a mask outside. Everybody. So even I will wear a mask when I go to the MRT, when I go to the subway, especially when there is rush hour. I don't want to risk anything. People even ask me, so what if there is a community spread here in Singapore? What will I do? To be honest, I discussed with a colleague about that, and he said he will just fly back to Switzerland. And I was thinking about it. We discussed, so what's the number where we would consider flying back? And we said it's around 100 cases. So let's say in Singapore there are 100 cases next week. I probably take the next plane and fly out of Singapore and go back to Switzerland, where we have fresh air, and chill somewhere in my holiday house, and I'll do some home office from there. The only big problem is the time zone, and I need to have some meetings where I need to be physically here in Singapore. But let's hope this doesn't happen. Let's hope it gets better in China as well as in the rest of the world, and I really hope it doesn't spread out even further. And if it does, that the countries can somehow get it under control. But I do have to say right now, if you ask me, I'm rather pessimistic than optimistic, especially when I saw last weekend how many people from China came back to Singapore. When do I get back into the stock market and buy everything back again? I am not sure yet. It's definitely not this week and probably not next week. So I can sleep better when I have everything sold out and I'm only sitting on cash. I will buy back, I told myself, once the curve is not exponentially anymore and it's going down again, or will go down. I think that's the time to buy back stocks at the lower level. But I think now is not the time to talk about profits. I really think the topic is about how to mitigate the risk of a community spread of the virus. And I think the countries around me and in Singapore itself, they're doing their best to get to solutions once it gets worse. That's all from my side. I hope this session was interesting. If you have any questions or topics I should talk about, do let me know. Give me a thumbs up, and if you're interested on Instagram, follow me. It's jpeg144. See you next time. Bye guys.